Hello everyone, welcome to my kitchen. My name is Michael. Today I'm going to show you how to make a pumpkin bread. This could not be any easier. With just a few ingredients, this comes together really quickly, and a little bit of time in the oven, you've got a fantastic dish to serve as a dessert or something that you want to eat by itself on its own with a cup of coffee would be fantastic. So we're going to start with our pan first. This is a 8.5 by 4.5 inch pan, or in the United States this is called a 1 pound pan, and I'll put the link in the description box below for that so you can check that out if you don't have one of these, where you can get that. And I've got just a piece of parchment paper, and so with my parchment paper I just went in and cut it the same width as the bottom of the pan, and I left the edges hanging over the side. I'm going to cut some of that off, but I'm going to leave some of it on there, and when you get ready to pull it out you'll be able to grab a hold of that paper and pull it out. So definitely don't cut that to the edge, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with that. So I've got a little bit of softened butter here, and I'm going to put that in the bottom of the pan, and that's just going to kind of hold the paper in place. So just kind of spread that around to the bottom and on two of the sides here where the paper is going to stick to the sides. All right, now that I've got it on these longer sides in the bottom, let's put our paper in. And you can see how nicely that holds, and what we want to do then is just fold these top pieces back, and then I'm going to take some more of the butter and I'm going to line the paper and this other two walls over here with this butter so that it comes undone from the paper very easily when we get ready to pull this out of this pan. So now I've got the butter on the inside of my paper here and on the two outside walls here, and I'm going to take a pair of scissors and cut and just leave about an inch on the sides there. That way you've got something you can grab a hold of when you pull it out of this pan. Our pan is done now, and let's set that to the side. All right, so now let's start working on our dry ingredients. I've got a bowl and I've got a colander here, and I'm going to use this as my makeshift sifter today. And we're going to start with our flour, and I've got 1.5 cups, or I've got 180 grams, and I'm just going to add that in, and this is all-purpose flour. Just put that into our sifter. I've got a 1/4 cup of cornstarch, or that's 30 grams. We'll add that in. I've got 1 1/4 teaspoons of baking powder. I've got a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. I've got a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I've got 1.5 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. I've got 3/4 teaspoon of ground ginger. I've got a 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. I've got a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves. And with that, we're going to sift this all together into this big bowl. And you can see here while we sift all that together, we've got some large clumps there. We definitely don't want that in our pumpkin bread, so this is why we sift these. We'll set this to the side now. And I'm going to take a whisk, and just to make sure that that's all integrated together. Now that I've got that mixed together, let's go ahead and start working on our other ingredients. And I've got another bowl here. Now I've got 1 cup or 200 grams of granulated sugar, and I've got 2 eggs here that I've got at room temperature. We want to make sure that our eggs are at room temperature, and I've got some half and half over here. We want that at room temperature also. 2 eggs, those are large eggs. I'm gonna crack these in this other bowl over here just to make sure I've got 2 good ones, and we definitely want to make sure I don't get any of that shell into those other ingredients. So this looks like a good egg. We'll add that in, and I'll check my second one. Now I've got 3/4 cup of a neutral vegetable oil, or this is 155 grams, and we're going to add that in. We definitely don't want to put anything in there that's going to put any different kind of taste in it, because we want all of that pumpkin that we've got in this to come through. We don't want those extra flavors coming through in that oil, so use a neutral vegetable oil for that. Now I've got 1 cup of pumpkin puree, or that's 250 grams. This is out of a can, but if you want to use fresh, you can definitely do that. I like the consistency that I always get out of the cans when I get that with the water texture in that. So this is 1 cup, 250 grams. We'll add that in. Now this is 3 tablespoons of half and half. If you want to use heavy cream, you can definitely do that, or if you don't have either one of those, you can definitely use milk. 3 tablespoons are about 45 grams. And now I've got 1 1/4 teaspoons of vanilla. This is my homemade vanilla. If you've never seen that video where I make homemade vanilla, I'll put that link in the description box below. It's really interesting how it makes, and it makes great gifts if you want to make that and give that as gifts. So now we're just going to take a whisk, and we're going to break our eggs up, and we're going to take that pumpkin puree in with that sugar, and we're just going to mix this all together until it gets nice and smooth. I've got my wet ingredients now mixed together. That is really smooth. I'll let you see what that looks like now. We're going to take our dry ingredients and we're going to add that together. And with this, we want to be really careful. We just want to incorporate this together. You do not want to overwork this, because it will activate that gluten and make it a really dense bread. We don't want that. So just fold it together until it comes together and you don't see any more of that flour in the mixture. All right, I've got that all mixed together now, and like I said earlier, we just want to fold that together until we don't see any more of that flour. So now we're going to take our pan again, our loaf pan that we've got, and we want to make sure that that paper stays on the outside there. And now we're going to take our mixture and just pour it into our pan. All right, I've got my pumpkin in the pan now, and just want to kind of hit that on the counter a couple of hits. That way, if there's any air pockets in there, that'll release that. So I've got a small baking pan here, and I'm going to put that on the bottom of that. And I notice whenever I do that, that whatever I'm cooking, that the bottom of it doesn't get really overcooked and hard. So I always put a pan under it. And it also helps if there's going to be any overflow if it does rise up. This will rise up, and it's going to come up to the top of your pan here, and it'll create a little dome on it. So definitely you don't want any of that running into your stove. So put a pan under it if you've got one just like this. And we're going to put it into that preheated 325 degree Fahrenheit, or that's about 160 degree Celsius. And I do have convection on mine, so I do have that turned on. And we're going to cook this on that temperature between 55 and 65 minutes. This normally cooks in my stove about 60 minutes. So you want to start checking on it to make sure that it's done. You can stick a toothpick in it or a skewer. When it comes out clean, you know that it's done. And I'll come back and show you what this looks like. About halfway through, about 30 minutes, I'm going to come in and turn the pan 180 degrees. With the convection, you don't really have to do that, but I just always do it anyway, just to make sure that we're getting even cooking all the way around. So I'll see you back when this is done, and I'll let you know how long this takes today. I've got my cake in the oven now. I wanted to let you know about the placement of the racks. I've got the bottom rack almost to the bottom. It's 2 slots up from the bottom, and definitely make sure you don't have any racks up on the top of it, because it will rise and you don't want it rising into the bottom of the rack on the top. So if you've got extra racks in there, take those out, and I'll see you back when this is done. I am back, and my pumpkin bread is done. It took 60 minutes for that to cook today. So I started checking on it at about 15 minutes. I didn't want it to overcook, and started sticking the skewer in there, and it was just a little wet when it came out at 50. And I just left it in there a few more minutes until I knew that it was completely done. So now we want to let this sit here for about 15 to 20 minutes. We want it to cool down just a little bit. And we're not finished with this. You can eat it just like this if you want to, but I'm going to make this a little bit more special. So stay with me. I'm going to show you what we're going to do to this and bring this up to the next level. All right, it's been about 20 minutes now. Let's go ahead and take our bread out of our pan. And this should be cooled off now. It's still a little warm, but it is going to be nice for me to be able to pick that up. So I've got just a plate here that I'm going to put this on. And like I said, you want these little wings on this paper left down there so you can lift that up. And you can notice here on the side too that it's pulled away from the edge a little bit on that. So that's another key that you can tell that's just going to release very well. So just give it a lift up. That's why that paper is there, to help you out with that. It just comes out of that really nicely. So let's take our clean hand, and we'll take our bread off of our paper. That looks absolutely incredible, and it smells delicious. But like I said, you can eat it like this if you want to. Let's take it up a notch to another level. So I've got just a cup here, and I've got a tablespoon of honey and a tablespoon of butter. And with that, I'm going to take it to the microwave, and I'm going to heat that up just a little bit, and I'm going to put just a little bit of cinnamon in it. And I'm not going to measure that out, just kind of shake it just a little bit in there, just to kind of give it a little bit of a taste. You can see how much is on that butter there. I'll show you on the overhead on that. Take this to the microwave. 5 to 10 seconds, this should be melted together. We'll give this a stir together, and we're going to come back and spruce up our pumpkin bread. Be right back. I'm back, and I did leave my butter and my honey in the microwave with just a little bit of that cinnamon on it for about 15 seconds. You just want that to heat up just a little bit so that that honey and butter come together really nicely. And with that honey, with it being a little bit warm like that, it'll spread a little bit easier. So give that a good little mix through, just like that. I'm going to take a brush here, and I'm going to brush it on the top of it. And if you wanted to, you could actually come in and poke a few more holes on the top of it and let that soak down into that bread. It's going to be delicious with this on it. It's going to put just a little bit more sweetness to it. All right, that looks absolutely delicious now. We'll let that set up just a few minutes there. And I've got some powdered sugar here. If you want to, you can wait and then put some of this on later. If you wanted to use the rest of this up, you definitely could. But you can come in on the top of it and just give it a little bit of dusting of some powdered sugar on the top of it to make it look really nice and decorate that up. There you go. I'm going to go get me a plate and a fork, and we're going to come back and give this a taste test, and we'll cut into this and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, my pumpkin bread has cooled down now, and it's got a nice little bit of a glaze on the top of it. That looks really nice. Let's cut me a slice here. I'm going to take off this end slice, and then I'm going to cut the next one up from it. That is still really warm from where that was baked. That's really pretty. That crumb on that is really nice, and look how tender that is. I'll try to get an overhead shot on that. Like we did earlier when we put everything together, just make sure you just put it together. You don't really want to whip and knead it together, because it's a different kind of bread than what you would eat, you know, like at a regular meal when you're making bread like bagels or any other kind of bread like that. So definitely just put it together so that it just comes together. So let's give this a taste. Oh my goodness, that is absolutely delicious. There's just the right amount of pumpkin in there, that little bit of sweetness from that sugar that we put in there earlier, and that little bit of a glaze on the top really sets that off. Like I said earlier, if you didn't want to put the glaze on, you don't have to, but why not take it to the next level? And if you wanted to put some whipped cream on it, you could definitely put some on that just to take it up another level from there. I hope you like this content, and if you do, maybe you might consider giving me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And while you're at it, maybe you might want to check out one of these other 2 videos over here on the side. You might find something else you like. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Give this recipe a try. I know you'll love it. Leave me a comment when you make it. I want to hear from you. Or if you make some type of pumpkin bread, what do you do different in yours? I'd love to hear from you. I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye now.